So today we're here to talk about how to recession-proof your Amazon business. We're really excited to have some great experts online with us. So I'm Becky Trowbridge. I'm the digital marketing manager here at eComEngine. Been here for just a little over 6 years. So like to get to know all things Amazon. I've got two awesome sellers who have kind of been through the ropes, so they can tell you a little bit about their experiences with economic ups and downs. And then we've got Cyndi Thomason, who is an e-commerce accounting expert. So I'll just have them introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Charlene. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks. I'm Charlene Anderson. I own an Amazon business that has been selling on Amazon since 2001, back in the dark ages. So this is my 22nd year selling on Amazon. So I've seen everything. I also sell on other marketplaces, but Amazon is the primary marketplace for my business.
Great. And Mina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Mina, Elias. I started in Amazon in 2018. I created a supplement brand. My background's in chemical engineering, so it helped that I had that knowledge, but I also was a very big supplement fanatic. So created a supplement, got on Amazon, scaled it, started helping other people, just sharing knowledge for free. And in 2021, ended up starting Trivium, which is an Amazon marketing agency. And we've grown to help now around 90 brands. We have 90 brands under management. We spend around 3 million a month on ads, and we take like a little bit of a different approach. We try and kind of look at everything very holistically, not just through the lens of PPC or just the lens of like listing optimization, but more. I've kind of been pulling from D2C brands and the ones that, especially the ones like are VC funded and stuff like that. So, our goal is to just kind of understand how Amazon works because of all the new changes, and improve traffic, make it better, cheaper, improve your conversion rate, make you more sales.
Great. Cyndi, can you tell us a little bit about bookskeep?
I sure can. I'm Cyndi Thomason. I'm the founder of bookskeep. We were created in 2014. We started focusing on Amazon businesses in 2015. We have about 150 accounting clients. We focus primarily on helping our clients become more profitable, to understand their numbers so that they've got the details that they need to be able to manage their business and grow.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to kick off by just talking a little bit about, it's no secret that we're in some uncertain times. I get a Morning Brew newsletter every day, and sometimes they say recession is imminent. Other times, like this morning, I think the outlook was pretty good, but I think it's fair to say that things have been really up and down. Of course, we had COVID back in 2020 causing some supply chain delays, and then we're still seeing some just material problems in manufacturing and shipping, even from being delayed back then. Almost 3 years later, I know it's still continuing to impact certain businesses. The US economy could manage a soft landing, or we might be headed for a recession. But either way, we have these experts here today to talk about, what do you do when things are kind of uncertain? Is there anything that, from years of selling online, like Char has obviously been through like the 2008 recession and a lot of different experiences, and Mina has had the ad experience, like when do you spend money, when do you not spend money, how do you maximize what you're doing so that you're making the most of these times that things are kind of in a low and you can keep your business going. So I just kind of added the eggs are 60% more expensive than they were a year ago, because I know every time I go to the grocery store, I come home and my husband's like, you bought eggs again, didn't you? They were $6. So I think I read that consumer spending was down 70% from projections. And I know we've seen that a lot. Like buyers are a little more hesitant to pull out their wallets. And obviously, if you're spending all this time and money getting them to your listings, you want to make sure that they're actually hopefully going to make a purchase. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And I've just got a series of questions I'm going to ask our experts, and I'll just kind of let them all tell you about their experiences. So I wanted to start off just talking about what's your best advice for sellers when the economy is challenging? And kind of piggybacking off of that, what do you wish you had known? And Shar, I'm going to pick on you because you've been selling the longest. So if you could kick us off.
That was a polite way of saying I'm the oldest. Yeah, I've been selling a long time, so I've been through a lot of ups and downs. And I have to say, there's a couple things that I think I would give advice to anybody now. One is cut your unnecessary expenses. Those kind of things creep up on you. 17 streaming services, all of a sudden appear on your bill because you've trialed them and haven't signed off on them. Cut your expenses in any way you can to maintain the quality of your business, but not spend as much on stuff that is not absolutely necessary. And kind of piggybacking off of that, I also want to say is cash is king all the time. If you can avoid debt, do it. Avoid it, avoid it, avoid it. I started my business with $100 and I do, over 7 figures a year in a one-person business. So it is doable. And I never took on any debt, no partners, nothing, just because I didn't want to get in the position with if something happened in the economy, something happened with my health that I wouldn't be able to pay off that debt. So I think get rid of debt if you can. Cash is king. Get rid of the unnecessary expenses and watch your inventory levels like a hawk. Don't run out of inventory, but don't have too much either.
Yes, definitely. Mina, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think I want to add on to what Shar said real quick. A lot of people are afraid to amputate in their business. And I've seen it time and time again. We take on a lot of brands and they don't have a clear understanding of the profitability per product. And something that I want everyone to realize is $1 you spend on your product that does $100 a month in profit is $1 that you didn't spend on a product that's doing 10,000. And no matter how much you want it to not be true, it's true. So amputate. If we use my real profit and we calculate exactly profit per unit, per each, per product. And so I can go in at any point in time and say, okay, show me the performance, for the last 90 days of all of my products in terms of profit. Profit takes into account sale price, Amazon fees, cost of goods, discounts, reimbursements, returns, all of that stuff. And then when you notice that you're spending $4,000 a month to place POs on inventory that is generating you 150, 200, 500 in profit a month, that money can be better spent on another product, or it can be better spent on your main product. That money could be spent, trying to test to improve your click-through rate and your conversion rate on your main product. Because a 5% or 1%, a 0.2% improvement on your click-through rate can mean so many more people coming into your listing. And so, I challenge you to amputate. Don't get emotional. Because you launched the product doesn't mean you could keep it. Just because it does 100 to 500, maybe 1,000 in profit a month doesn't mean that you should keep it. Of course, if it's your only one and all of your profit is low, that's fine. But if you do have multiple, because we see all the time people coming in, hey, we want you to manage our 15 ASINs, and I'm like, why? Why shouldn't we just focus on the 4 that generate 90% of your revenue? And it's an emotional thing. And I had that emotional thing. I still do, actually. One of my products is an Energizer. The only reason that I have it running is because my mom loves it. And so I can't discontinue it, unfortunately. But it only brings $200 a month in profit. So that's, one of my advices. I have more. I don't want to talk too much. What do I wish I had known? That as you do Amazon more, you're not going to get any better at knowing your numbers. And probably this is where Cyndi is going to come in a lot more. But it doesn't just magically happen. So start now. Make it a priority. Your weakness is not going to become your strength until you put energy into it. My weakness was numbers. My weakness was accounting. My weakness was knowing my profitability and all that stuff and broken down and where are all the holes and the gaps. And so start now. This is the time. The economy is going down and you can't afford to not know every single number.
Yeah. Cyndi, love to hear from you here too.
Well, I love what you guys are saying. And I'd like to piggyback on both of you a little bit. I totally agree with Shar on the not taking on any new debt. It's not a time to take on debt. Interest rates are rising, but it may be a time that if you have debt that you want to sit on that debt and not be aggressive about paying it off, because right now, some loans that you may have had for a while at very low interest rates, you couldn't get again. And if you're strapped for cash, putting a big initiative into paying off that debt. While I love to operate debt free, and that's the way I operate, in a time where cash is vital, then you want to hang on to as much of that as possible so you have it accessible, as opposed to spending money paying down debt at a time whenever if you were to need to get more debt, it would be much more expensive. So be strategic about your debt, and now's not the time to be borrowing. And if you're cash flush, then by all means work to pay it off. But sometimes that interest rate that you've got is not something you're going to see again for a long time. So as far as having the as amputating, and I love that word. We see that a lot with our clients too. It's their baby. They don't want to get rid of the one that they started with. And there's a couple of things to think about there. Those variations, those old products that aren't producing margin. Margin is one factor, and a very important factor to be thinking about. How profitable is that product? But the other piece of it to think about is, what is the cash flow for that product too? How quickly does it sell through? What are your minimum order quantities that you have to place? How long does it take to get that product from China or wherever it's manufactured? And you're having to put out money well in advance before that money will start to come back to you. So in addition to thinking about profitability, think about the impact to your cash. How much cash is it going to take? How quickly will it turn? You don't want to put a bunch of cash into something that's going to sit on the shelves for a long time. So if it's a product that might not move during the recession, if people are cutting back on their expenses, that's probably not a good place to put money into. The other thing that we haven't talked about is pricing. You can start to play with some of your pricing. That is a way to start to bring in more to your profitability, to your bottom line. I read a study not too long ago that said 89% of e-commerce sellers had indicated that they had had price increases for their products. Only 70% had actually raised the price on their product to their buyer. So is there some opportunity for you to think about your pricing and do some testing around pricing to help make up for all of the different expenses and how costly things are now to, just the inflation that we're experiencing?
Yeah, those are great points. So one thing I wanted to talk about is, I feel like e-commerce and selling on Amazon in particular can be really lonely. I think that's the advantage of, like Shar has this great group of wholesale sourcing experts, and they really support each other. And it's really great to see just that caring and people who get it. I think a lot of times you're trying to talk to your family and friends and they have no idea what you're talking about. You're saying, oh, Amazon released this policy and it changed everything I had in the warehouse, and no one understands.
Yep.
So I did want to just talk about, how do you stay motivated when sales are down, especially if you're really results driven? Like, I know we're all high achievers here. So how do you keep going when things get tough? And anyone can chime in there. Sorry.
I've been very lucky, and I've never had a down year on Amazon, even with supply chain issues in 2020, and there were some massive ones. I've been really lucky and have been able to grow every year. So I look at sales every day and compare them to the previous year, and if they're down, I just kind of, like, what are people thinking? I don't take it personally, but it does motivate me, if the short-term sales are down, to not sit on inventory in my warehouse, which is otherwise known as the spare room. Having inventory sit and not processing and getting it to Amazon can kill a business. And I know firsthand a couple businesses that had plenty of inventory, but they weren't motivated to send it in. So I just picture all the money that's sitting in those boxes waiting to be sent in, and make sure that I am keeping in stock necessary levels at Amazon. That's the first thing I would look at if your sales are down, is have you run out of stock? Have you run out of money in your advertising accounts? Is your pricing competitive? It could be it's too low and people are wary about prices that seem too good to be true. So maybe you need to bump up those prices to make yourself look more competitive. Is your listing good? Are the pictures good? Do they need to be freshened up? Are the titles and the bullet points and the descriptions and everything someone needs to buy your product, are those in your listings? I carry about 4,000 different products. So it's really important to keep on top of that when it happens, because if you get behind with that many products, it's like almost impossible to catch up.
One of the things I found from a motivation standpoint that's been really helpful to me is I've got we're somewhat of an accountability group. I think there's 6 or 7 of us now that's been in this group since 2015. And we get together once a month. We're a group of accountants, and we just share what's going on in our business. So we create that also for some of our clients. We've got a group that is of Amazon sellers that get together and talk about what's going on in their businesses. Why I think that's important is because no matter what business you're in, when you're at the top, you can't really talk to your family. They don't understand it, and they don't want to hear any news that makes ripples in the family, that there's, okay, if I lose this big account, or if I don't sell and I have to buy this inventory, they start thinking about, okay, what is the impact to my groceries, my mortgage, that kind of thing. For folks that are in your team, you can't really start talking about uncertainty with your team. So it really is that lonely, position at the top. So to have other people that are facing that same challenge that you're facing, where you can share, your ad strategies or your sourcing strategies or whatever, and when those sales are down, get some perspective from somebody who may have seen it before and what happened. And sometimes when sales are down, it's also an opportunity to think about, what can I do different? What can be and what's an opportunity out there that I can take advantage of? And sometimes it spurs us to think about things in a little bit different way. So it's not always a bad thing. It can motivate us to do some good things.
I have one other thing I'd like to add before I forget. I'm sorry, Mina. You go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I don't want you to forget. So okay. Go ahead.
When things are tough in your business, the price you pay for your product is the starting point of every calculation you make. And I have been lucky enough to be able to make some deals with vendors that have really helped money-wise. I have one vendor that has me on a net 30 account, which is fabulous, but then I get to pay it with a credit card. So that buys me 28 more days of money, that using their money, plus the whatever benefits, points, miles, whatever you have on the business credit card. That's a great deal. So what I would suggest is talk to your vendors, and instead of you proposing a deal, just ask your vendor, what can I do so I can get better pricing on these products? Because they may have a better idea than you have. I learned that one at a trade show about 4 years ago. I asked a vendor in those exact words, what can I do? And they told me exactly what I could do in my ordering process that saved me about 10% of the cost of goods, which rolls right onto the profit side for me because I kept my prices the same, and it actually makes business simpler. So ask your vendors, what can we do to work together to get some better pricing? So Mina, it's all yours.
No worries. Very good points. I think the accountability group was huge for me when I started. It was hard, and and it is lonely. So having that group. And then the second thing is designing things to be less emotional. We're all, I think, emotional by nature. A few things that have worked for me is, number one, having an outside consultant come in and then just give it to you, and you just have to listen. And so that removes your emotions from the equation. And then understanding that sales are down, it's a symptom of something that's actually happening. If you don't understand the root cause, that's what gets you demotivated. But if you do understand the root cause, and it's like, okay, my sales are down because my impressions are down, or my sessions are down, my organic rank is down, or my click-through rate or conversion rate are down. Those are the things, those are the components that result in a lower sales. If you actually are tracking everything and identifying the root cause, you're not going to get demotivated because you know what to work on. And so you have a list of the main KPIs you keep an eye out on. You have a list of lead actions that you can take, levers that you can pull to test and improve those KPIs. And it doesn't feel demotivating. It just feels like there's a problem, and I know where it's coming from, and I'm taking action on it. The worst is you have a problem and you just don't know where it's coming from or how to take action. And I think that's what causes demotivation. It's like, when you've been dieting and you've been working out and the weight's just not coming off and you don't know why, that's what demotivates you. But if you know exactly why, if you know it's because of the weekend cheat meals, or if it's because you cut your calories too low, your metabolism is down, something like that, then you're like, okay, I know what it is. I'm doing something about it. And that demotivation kind of goes away. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. Learning so much from all of you. This is awesome. So I wanted to talk about just what's a good way to approach your business finances during a recession. And I was going to have Cyndi kick this one off.
Well, we've talked about preserving cash, and to me, that's the main thing. What are your strategies for preserving cash? But the other side of it is it's not all doom and gloom. A lot of great businesses were born out of a recession. So keep your eye open for what the opportunities are at the same time. So, you've got this one strategy of kind of putting your foot on the brake, so to speak, and being very careful about how you're spending money, but you've got the other foot ready to hit the gas when you see that opportunity. So to me, the approach is kind of twofold, managing both what's going on and how you can preserve cash, but at the same time, have some cash that you can put into an opportunity if you see one.
Totally agree with Cyndi. I have a fund in a special bank account that goes into the business opportunities, and I put a percentage in every month. So it's there above and beyond my normal cash flow purchases, business purchases and all that, because you never know when you're going to find an opportunity. I mean, it could be tomorrow afternoon and you got to act on it. So you have to prepare yourself for the future. I also think what you sell in a recession makes such a huge difference. And I'm really lucky. I sell products that nobody needs, but everybody needs emotionally. And I sell art and craft things. And even in recessions, art and craft does well. And so consider the products you're selling. If you're not a brand owner and you sell a little bit of everything, look at things that sell better during the down times and see what you can do to add products like that to your inventory.
For me, I'm pretty bad at finances. And so my biggest advice is hire someone who's good at finances. So, I don't know what it is, but like I've always kind of struggled. Maybe it's because I wasn't brought up with like good financial practices. But ever since I've brought on the right people, whether it's the right bookkeepers, the right advisors, for like Amazon, and then for the agency, obviously we have a controller and a CFO. So then it's like, okay, I'm not doing it anymore. And I have someone who's a lot better than me advising me. And so that's what I would say is, if that's your weakness, spend some time with someone, maybe like Becky, maybe like Cyndi, and have her teach you and then hire her. That's what I would do.
Thanks, Mina.
And I forgot to mention in the beginning, you guys can ask questions where we have the chat open. We're going to leave some time for Q&A at the end, and I am recording this, so I'll send out an email to everyone that registered. But Mina and Charlene, we did get a question that I thought might be good here. There are many sellers on Amazon that are offering dirt cheap pricing, but putting $14 for shipping, and eventually they get the buy box. How do you think we could tackle these situations specifically when we can't offer that price?
I mean,
Is that anything you've experienced?
yeah, if you're FBA, that's one way to win, right? Because FBA will win over FBM. I mean, the second thing is also, well, I don't know if this is more of like a wholesale. I guess, yeah, this would be more for you, Char, because this is like a wholesale thing. But usually it's like if you can send in stuff to Amazon and sell it through FBA, you'll probably win the buy box. So if you just have like some better systems, you can probably get away with that. But I want to hear what Char has to say also.
I agree. FBA is the first thing you can do to deal with that kind of thing. And second, here's a funny thing I've discovered about people in pricing. Free shipping does work great. It doesn't mean you eat the cost of shipping, you build it into your pricing structure. So you're competing, one, with somebody who thinks that they're going to sell things because the price looks really cheap until the person puts it in their cart and sees the shipping cost. They're probably going to abandon their cart. People are not stupid. They add the two things together and they'll see that, yeah, the price is really cheap, but I can get this one FBA for less price. So I don't worry about those kind of people. I actually don't compete against the FBM people. I do my pricing structure based on FBA pricing and what's selling, because 90% of the time FBA will win the buy box over fulfilled by merchant. This person is probably getting the buy box when everybody else is sold out, and that's why you see them rotating through the buy box at that point. So this is people that I don't worry about. To be honest, I spend my time on other things.
Makes sense. All right, so we know Amazon fees are up, costs are up. So just wanted to throw out, do you guys have any tips for saving money as an Amazon seller? I think we've had some good ones, like Char mentioned, negotiating with your vendors, but anything to add here?
Well, there's the big ones like negotiating with vendors, having the best credit cards for your business. The vast majority of my vendors take credit cards. And for me, they're paid off at the end of every month. I don't carry any debt on them, but those bonuses you can earn are substantial. You know, I have some early pay discounts. If I pay within 10 days of the statement closing, I get a 3% discount on the whole bill. And that kind of stuff adds up. So look for the big things, look for the pricing with your vendors, but then look for the small stuff too. Boxes. This sounds really trite, but I reuse as many boxes as I can, because boxes are $2 and $2 6 or 8 times a day suddenly adds up to some real money. I scour Facebook Marketplace in our little town for people who are getting out of business and selling their stock of poly bags or their impulse sealers or whatever. So if I need to replace equipment, I look there first for used equipment, used products. I just scored about $1,000 worth of poly bags for the cost of shipping them. Which was $123. So that was a pretty decent saving since I use, 60,000 poly bags a year. So do the big things, but also do those little things. Get rid of those little bits of money that are trickling out of your business. I say Netflix subscriptions, but I have tons of subscriptions. Software you don't use, get rid of the subscription. Software you use and value, tell the people thank you and we appreciate your software and we're keeping it. For me, it happens to be Restock Pro is the last thing I would give up in my business to save money, because it has made me so much money in keeping track of inventory levels so I don't over order and I don't send in too much at one time. So that kind of thing is valuable, because if you save $100 a month in storage fees for just storing stuff that doesn't need to be there, that's $1,200 a year. And for very small businesses, that's a substantial amount of money. So just save the little stuff wherever you can.
Yeah, when we work with our clients, one of the things that we do is every quarter we print out for them what they're paying for subscriptions, and we ask them to go through and line out what your you signed up for the free trial and it was going to be the thing that replaced 8 things, but then it didn't do half what you wanted and you're still paying for it, right? So we just mark them out, then go cancel them, because people will mark them out and then they don't go cancel them. Typically when we do that exercise, the first time we can save $1,800 a month. So, I mean, it's substantial what people have accumulated. So we call the exercise cut, reduce, replace, or keep, because very often you can cut it, or you can replace it with something that's cheaper, or you can go to a lower plan level because you're not really using all the gold, platinum stuff. And then if you need to keep it, then as Char said, thank your supplier, they've got a great product. But go through it with that mindset. What can I actually get rid of or replace that will be cheaper for me? The other thing that I think people sometimes lose sight of, and I love Mina's holistic approach, but we see people spending money on ads for products when they don't have any inventory stock. And I'm like, why are you paying to advertise something when you don't have, and it's going to be months coming in? So work with your marketing team to really come up with a plan to make sure that how you're promoting your products is also in line with what you actually have available to sell. And I know there's reasons, you want to keep your name out there, et cetera, but spending as much as you would have on trying to push product through when it's in the warehouse, there's probably a different strategy you need whenever your product is out of stock. So work with your ad folks to really optimize how your ad spend is marrying up to the inventory you have available.
I love that. I'll tackle this from 3 places. Number 1, from the manufacturer. What I've done in the past is, after establishing a little bit of trust and paying on time, I ask if I can place a very large PO and then pay it every single month. And so this seems like, okay, I'm anyway sending you whatever, $7,000 a month to buy product. But how about instead, I buy, like 10 months worth or whatever, but you give me like a 10 or 15 or 20% discount. But I'm not going to give you the cash all up front. I'm just committing that I'm going to, and obviously as long as you're selling, you're fine. Now people will be like, well, what if I go out, something happens, et cetera, et cetera. It's cool. I mean, most people are understanding of it. So that's number 1. Number 2, you can use a product like Getida or Seller Investigators. They go in and they find a lot of stuff. Like, for example, if you create a shipment and they're like, I put the wrong SKU, and then you cancel it, your money doesn't go back to you. You have to actually open up a case and request them to refund you the money. So things like that, having someone there kind of like checking and doing that will get you money. They get me like 10 grand a month, 10 grand a year, money back. There's also the size of your product. So if you can, if it's possible, work with someone to maybe configure your box a little bit differently, the packaging. If you can go from like a size that you're at to a lighter size, a smaller size, or if you can go from a weight to a lighter weight, you end up saving money there. If you're on the cusp of small and light, it's definitely worth going to small and light. So if you're a $12, $13 product and you go to $9.99, you'll probably sell way more. And the Amazon fees like kind of will cut the difference of like the loss in profit that you're going to make. And then on the marketing side, I just want to quickly touch on, you should have very hard limits and you should be evaluating every single day. How much are you willing to spend on a keyword before you cut it? So don't make it like kind of loose. For auto, broad, phrase, and expanded ASIN, those are keywords that are going in like testing many different search terms. You have to have a hard line and say, $12 in spend and no sales, you're getting cut. And same like, 85% ACOS, you're getting cut. And then have that hard limit and follow up and do it very consistently. Now, I do not recommend using software because software doesn't think. You can have a keyword with 85% ACOS, but that's generating 35% of your sales. It will still get cut and that will hurt you because the attribution is probably off. It's probably generating organic or whatever. So don't use any software, do it yourself, have hard limits, and I think you can save a lot of money.
And Mina said something that made me think, you know, the big PO idea. I've had sellers that have worked with their vendors to create relationships around storage where the manufacturer will actually hold some things in storage and send it out as needed, as opposed to having to, you know, store it at Amazon or at another warehouse. So your vendor or your manufacturer may be willing to work with you on some warehousing, some of your product, if, you know, if that's something within their capability.
Yeah.
Mina, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't small and light $12 now? Didn't it just go up?
Maybe recently, I think.
Yeah, like in the past
Yeah.
couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
anyway,
that's- you're right.
just so people realize that they have a little more leeway in it now. But speaking of size, I'm all about the size thing when you sell stuff. For me, small, light, and expensive are the three best words in the world, you know, and small and light win over big and heavy anytime, just in your storage space, your processing time, your fees, all of that kind of stuff. So if you have a choice and you're starting a new Amazon business, don't necessarily go for the big things. You know, there's a lot of money to be made in things that don't take up huge warehouses of space.
Yeah.
There was a question I'm going to jump onto because I'm doing this right now. It's from Tyler, and he's asking, is now a bad time to focus on growth of new product lines rather than existing strong performing items? You have to do both. You can't give up one for the other. But I have launched a new product line with the manufacturer. I'm their brand representative on Amazon right now. And because of the success of the 3 previous lines that they've carried, I really am spending a fair amount of time on this one, on the listings, on the photography, on all of that, just because of the history I have with their other products. Now, if it's a totally unknown, that's where you really have to be careful, because if the vendor has no history of product sales, it's a totally new product, maybe a new thing. Just be careful that you don't devote so much time that you let your existing profitable products suffer for it.
Well, there's the time and the cash flow too. You know, getting started with a new product typically is a cash intensive activity. So if it's not got some history, like Char said, just go into it very carefully, because you don't want to tie up cash in something that's unproven.
Right.
And then be starving for cash to be able to keep your bread and butter products available for sale. So I would want some good research to tell me that this is going to be a pretty safe bet in a time when we might be facing some uncertainty.
And the category you're selling in makes a huge difference too. You know, I've found that people will spend money on crafts before they'll spend money on food. So think about your category, what category this new product line is in, and see if it's a kind of product people will buy when money's tight.
Yeah, I always think old existing profitable lines are always better than new lines, unless you've hit a cap. And when you do hit a cap, there's always the option of launching a variation, which, you know, is considered like expanding. You get all of the reviews pulled in with that new variation. You get a fresh honeymoon phase, and you can capture maybe a different pocket of the audience. But I always say, like, maximize everything that you can, you know, use DSP, whatever, first with existing profitable, because you're taking a gamble. And again, it's money that's going to be put in inventory, that's going to hold up cash flow and all of this stuff that you don't know if it's going to work or not, versus something that, you know, is working already.
And you can also consider what kind of recurring sale you might get that accompanies the products that you're selling. So if there's some opportunity for subscription, people love that now. I love it. You know, I love knowing that on a certain day, my tea is going to show up from the company that makes this tea I like, you know. So what can you do? What are you selling now that may lend itself to a companion product that you can put on some kind of subscription? Because that recurrence is something you don't have to work for nearly as hard.
Yeah, I love going into orders, and I randomly look at orders every morning, and I love it when it says 11 previous orders from this buyer or something. It's like, that's telling me something's happening that's right in the whole process. So that's a really nice thing to do.
Yeah. All right, Mina, you're on the spot. How are you approaching advertising?
Oh, this is okay. So let's dig in here. The way that we're approaching advertising when things are getting rough, number one, we have very strict, like a very strict analytics sheet. We're tracking, daily, spend, sales, number of sessions, the cost of each session, click-through rate, conversion rate, cost per click, and then, profit, which is very, very, very important. We understand what's happening. Cost per session is a very important metric because it tells me what is our cost for each person coming into the listing. So if I notice that that's going up, it's usually either we're losing organic rank. So if your spend hasn't changed, you're losing organic rank, or you're spending more money on keywords. So now a few things, if we want to get a little bit more technical, go into your search term report, identify the campaigns that are, or all of the keywords that are auto, broad, phrase, and expanded ASIN. You can sort by anything that's spent money and hasn't made sales, or anything above a certain ACOS. Take those, add them as negatives. If you have a bid by placement, a lot of people are bullish on top of search first page. Sometimes that's not the best. Consider cutting that bid by placement and showing up a little bit in the middle or the bottom. It sometimes depends on buyer like psychology, how much buyer intent they have. So maybe by the time they reach the middle of page 2, and they click on you, if you get charged, they're actually really in the market for your stuff, versus window shoppers at the top of page 1 on some keywords. And then what else are we doing? Yeah, I feel like just, kind of tracking everything, understanding our profits. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what you can do when it comes to like advertising, is lowering bids, lowering bid by placements, making sure you have clean campaign structure, obviously. One good one is also identifying which child variation is the one that's actually the most desirable, showing that one up the most. So maybe pause the other ones in the ad groups or in the ad campaigns, show the most desirable child variation, and sometimes you get a better bang for your buck, because people will see that in the advertising, decide to click on it. Oh, there's one more thing that I just remembered. That was what I was blanking on. Cannibalization. So if you have very high organic rank and high sponsored rank, consider dropping your sponsored and seeing the effect on the organic rank, but also the effect on total sales. Don't look at the insight specific, just look at the total sales. If you dropped your spend by 100 by not spending as much on the sponsored because the organic is pretty high, and your sales are the same, you just saved some money, as long as your organic rank doesn't start tanking. And then same with sponsored brand, like headline search ads and video. If you have a headline search ad, high organic, high sponsored, a video, it could be the same people, the same sessions clicking on multiple ad types, charging you a lot more for the same. So consider cutting down the video, cutting down the headline search ad, leaving the sponsored product, because that's the one usually that converts the best and it's very native. And see what happens if you end up don't look at your campaign manager sponsored video performance, because it's not accurate. It'll say that it'll take the credit, but there's double credit. The sponsored product will take the credit, and the sponsored video will take the credit. So be aware of that. If you cut down your video spend and you save $50 a day, and you notice your sales aren't impacted, then you are cannibalizing. And then you can use sponsored video and headline search ads where you're not ranking well or not profitable on other keywords. Like use them as like, okay, we tried sponsored product for this keyword, it didn't work out, ACOS was too high, let's try a sponsored video, maybe we can get people in more profitable. And always track your actual spend and your total sales. You cannot rely on what campaign manager says. And so that's where discipline comes in, and saying, I'm only going to change one thing at a time. I'm only going to launch a sponsored video campaign on these 5 keywords, and I'm going to sit back and wait. And you notice your PPC spend goes up. How much did your total sales go up by? If you spend $100 more and you make $150 more, that's not good. Spend $100 more and your total sales go up by 500. Okay, now we're talking. So that's just kind of what I would do to be tight with my advertising.
I have one other thing I'd like to add. Don't count on Amazon to help you at all in doing this advertising thing. Just don't. They'll send you emails saying, we have an expert who's willing to help you grow your business and we will build these ads, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, don't hire someone like Mina or something, who knows what they're doing, because I have a Facebook group, an accountability group called Wholesale Sourcing Experts. And I can tell you not one person in there has had success with having Amazon help with the ads. So find someone else if you don't want to do it yourself, but don't get Amazon involved. They're in it to make money. They're not in it really with your best interests at heart.
And the same is true with Google. We've seen many clients who have had a Google account manager to help them advertise on Google and made a real mess of things. So hire an expert. Don't rely on folks.
Yeah, just think that these are probably the same group of people who are in seller support, and you know how well that works. So you might not want to get involved in it.
All right, sorry. So we have lots of questions. Keep them coming in. I just wanted to briefly talk about eComEngine because I haven't actually really done that yet. So we have two software tools, Feedback 5, which helps you automate Amazon feedback and review requests, and that's available in 17 different marketplaces. We have some really cool things happening with product review analytics, and then you can also get alerts. It's a great tool for building your seller reputation and then also maintaining it, identifying trends, getting an idea of whether to keep stocking something, all the work that you're doing to keep inventory in stock and to advertise your inventory doesn't really get you anywhere if you don't have good reviews. So it's really critical for a lot of businesses. And then we have Restock Pro, which Char mentioned earlier, and that helps you simplify your inventory management for FBA. It's available in 10 marketplaces, and one of the main goals is to help you stay in stock. So I did want to throw in, we had a question about suggestions for optimizing product pages and suggestions for encouraging reviews, and just a shameless plug for Feedback 5 to get those reviews, because honestly, we did a really cool product review study that was kind of my big project last summer, and we surveyed hundreds of Amazon sellers, and reviews are really, really critically important for Amazon businesses, but getting them is also really, really a pain for a lot of them. And automating and sending a request is honestly the best way to get reviews. Feedback 5 makes it really easy to use that request to review messaging system that's available in Seller Central, but you don't have to go in and click each individual order. We actually can automate that with your campaign preferences. And it just makes it really easy and smooth to just make sure you're getting a request out for all relevant orders. And we know that frequency and getting reviews asking frequently and having recent reviews is really important when it comes to what people are looking for when they're looking at your listing. And then I did just want to open it up if anyone else has ideas for getting reviews. And then also, I know we talked a little bit about optimizing product pages. And I think, Char, you had some things to say about keeping your listings accurate, making sure your images are good. Did you have anything else there?
That the bullet points are accurate, because it used to be, I don't know if anybody else has been selling on Amazon long enough to remember this, but Amazon used to send you what was called an ASIN change notice. And you would get that when there was any change made to an ASIN you had in your inventory. And it was really great for keeping track of people who were trying to screw up your listings. Well, of course, since it was useful, Amazon ditched it. So you really need to keep an eye on things. I've had brand registered listings get screwed up by black hat sellers. So there's no way you can avoid it 100%. So you're going to have to keep an eye on it. Make sure the bullet points didn't get changed. Make sure the title didn't get changed and everything else remained the same. I had one of those happen this week. So it's your responsibility now, since Amazon is not going to send you the ASIN change notices, to keep track of everything. It's a huge task, and you may want to outsource that. You may want to have an intern look at things, but the better the listing, the better the sales. But don't go overboard and have bullet points that are just out of control, titles that are ridiculously stuffed with keywords. It's got to be person readable in addition to search readable. So you have to make it so real people who put up the money for your products will buy it.
Yeah, I just to piggyback on that really quick, I always like to tell people with anything, but especially something like a listing, try to find somebody that has nothing to do with what you're doing and have them look at it for you. If you have a cousin or somebody that's willing to just kind of say, I
I
wouldn't
have
buy
a better
that.
idea.
Oh,
I
okay,
have,
great.
this is what I was going to talk about, Becky. So I was in the same boat, right? Like using my family, friends, whatever. Now we have a system, obviously. I mean, because we have so many brands and products we have to do this for. I like to use Product Opinion, and this is my process. So I go to productopinion.com. I submit my listing for an objection like video, and 5 different people will come in and they'll record a video saying all of the reasons they wouldn't buy my product or why they would buy other products, not mine. And that would create now an idea list of like, here's a bunch of things that I can try and address. And I obviously always have my click-through rate and my conversion rate documented. If it's one of the stuff that shows on the top, like main image, price, coupons, reviews, star rating, whatever, FBA versus FBM, badges, then that I'm looking at click-through rate a lot. But most of the time it's conversion rate. If it's like any of the other images, for supplements, they want to know that it's made in the USA. They want to know where those claims are backed by. Like, is this actually backed by science, or are you just making claims? You know, that blah, blah, blah. There's like a lot of different things that we're able to get. And so once we have a list, I pick one thing at a time. If you don't know how to prioritize, just random, pick one, try and make an improvement in your listing, and then submit it again. You versus, so you have like an old you versus your competitors poll, and they'll be like, okay, well, I would choose you 20% of the time, and now it's 35% of the time or 40% of the time. And if you see that improvement, then that's good. You can now go and put it on Amazon and notice the actual click-through rate and conversion rate improvement based on making that change. And then move, you know, wait at least a week or 2 to realize like the actual improvement in terms of analytics, and then repeat it with the next thing. And that's how, you know, we're very non-emotionally, like the thing I always tell people is like, sell water to thirsty people, you know, or thirsty people, just sell them water. It not like, oh, like I made this cocktail, like, no, I'm thirsty, I just want water. And so it's so much easier that I just go to the people and say, what do you want? And they say, well, I don't like this and I like that. And then I adjust the product. There's so much you can do without having to actually change the product fundamentally. Sometimes it's just in your packaging, which you can adjust. It's not really, you know, kosher, right? But you can, if it's not on the label, maybe you can add a fake label and it says 0 sugar, 0 carbs, or, you know, comes in a 6-pack. Or, you know, we took on like a pots and pans brand, and it made such a huge difference just to have a line that says 16-inch, or, you know, put like a size of like a 16-inch steak in it, so that they could see that, like, that's how you can fit 2 steaks in there. You can fit 1 steak in there, and it like increased click-through rate by a lot, just because that was something like, okay, I don't know, like, how big is this actually? And then they were able to find it in 2 seconds right on the main page, and no one was doing that.
Mm.
Back in the old eBay days, they used to put a Diet Coke can in pictures as the scale model of the things. And if it was really small, they'd put like a penny or a dime, but it used to be Diet Coke cans. Yeah. So the fake sounds a lot better. Because yeah, people are not going to read the size on it. You know,
No.
if you know, they'll say, oh, seemed way smaller than I expected, even though your listing might say 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. So anything you can do to make them be able to visualize what that product is and how big it is and all that is a big help. It is amazing what people need to know and what they will look for are totally 2 different things. So you have to make it as foolproof for the buyers as you can. And I love Mina's idea of having somebody totally unrelated look at your listings. So I would have somebody who doesn't know how to knit look at knit listings, because, you know, can they figure out what this is and what it does? You don't have to dumb it down, but I learned a really valuable lesson about putting information for people who are totally new to that kind of product in your listing, because there are beginners. I had focused on people who knew how to do that craft and didn't give them details that they really needed to know. And since then I've learned, and I remember to write for both experienced people and beginners both.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, especially in a niche like yours, just from my beginning days as a sewer, it's like, what?
Yeah. Why do I need
Bobin's
this?
like, there are
How
all
does this
these
work?
terms and yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's good to
that's
step
a
back.
big help for people, you know, and if you get questions, make sure you answer them.
Mhm.
Because if you answer them, you will have a customer for life, you know, seriously. And I always make sure I put my store name in the answer. And on some of the listings where there are multiple sellers, I make sure I answer the question and I say, if you buy from my store name, I can guarantee you that that is the correct answer, but I cannot guarantee that's the correct answer if you buy from somebody else. And that kind of pushes them towards you and also lets them know that you know about your products and maybe the other people don't if they don't answer a question. So,
Yeah. Well, we're rapidly running out of time, so I'm going to try to get 2 last questions in. So one is recommendations for finding new manufacturers. Someone said they're going to a big vendor event in Las Vegas and they're looking for any other ideas. They have a functional children's clothing brand and they've used South America and China suppliers and have almost never had a smooth PO arrive on time and promise quality.
Trade shows, referrals. If you have a brand that's performing well, talk to those people and ask them what other brands you think would complement your products in my store. Pretend it's a brick and mortar store. What would you put in there to complement those products? And they may give you some names, some referrals, whatever. I love trade shows, you know, and I especially love trade shows in product lines I'm not familiar with because I learned so much. But maybe go to as many as you can and make sure you set a budget for them, a spending budget for new products. But clothing is a competitive field. Clothing is also known to have those 2 issues that you talk about, quality and timely delivery. I would look into putting things in your contract about, you know, what their penalties are for non-timely delivery. If they go over a certain percentage of products that aren't acceptable, is there a penalty? So speak to a contracts attorney and see what you can do in that case to maybe cushion yourself from any bad things that might happen when you receive those orders in.
Great advice.
There's
And then
also a trade show that's being held. Tim Jordan and Amy Weiss are doing it in Mexico, I think in a week or 2. So if you're looking for manufacturers, it's actually a sourcing trip to visit manufacturers in Mexico. So that may be an option to look into what they've got going on as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, be careful. I'm not to diss those, but be careful with them because if you go on those with 20 other Amazon sellers, there's not going to be any individuality in products, you know, because you're all competing for the same things. That's why I like to be a lone wolf at trade shows and not I go to the shows nobody hears about that are not on every Facebook group. Go to this show, go to that show. I go to the odd and obscure ones and I always go myself. I don't send anybody to go. In the end, the product choices are my responsibility and my way to make money. So I go. I'm not fond of those group sourcing things. If you want to carry products from Mexico, do your own trip and go to places where they're not going to want 20 people, where they're going to want 1 person, and get those products on your own, not with a group of people. Just my 2 cents.
Feedback. Okay, and then our last question is, what KPI goals do you have for advertising on Amazon? Maybe a 30-second one, Mina.
Okay, to answer this quickly, essentially, I look at it in terms of like a funnel. The top is to get more impressions. The more impressions you're getting means more visibility. A step under that is more sessions. More sessions means more people coming to your listing, whether that's organic or paid, it doesn't matter. The goal is the goal, get more people into the listing. Then, so between impressions and sessions, you have that click-through rate. Make sure that you're optimizing for a higher click-through rate. Then there's a cost associated with bringing people to the listing. That's your cost per session. So that KPI, you want to be dropping the cost per session while increasing the number of sessions. Of course, you can't do both. So sometimes you're increasing sessions and other times you're trying to optimize and lower the cost per session. Then once you're in the listing, obviously the thing that's going to decide if you're making sales more or less is conversion rate. So always optimize for conversion rate. And we keep track of those KPIs and we're optimizing all of them. So higher conversion rate, higher click-through rate, more sessions, more impressions, lower cost per session.
And I'd like to add just one thing to that, and it's kind of big picture, and I call it the media efficiency ratio, where we take the ad spend, divide it by the total sales that you have, and it doesn't mean anything until you track it for a little while, but you can start to see if the dollars you're spending are having an impact on the sales that you're getting. And it's a real big picture number, but it's a place to start.
Yeah, this is big for companies that also are like bigger and do YouTube and Facebook and D2C and spending money on billboards. They always measure their total because, you know, everything feeds everything. So starts, you know, obviously start with your Amazon but that's a very good number.
Yeah, so I wanted to thank all of our experts. I know it's a busy time of year and I appreciate you taking the time to answer all of my questions today. And then I just wanted to highlight some special offers. So we have a 30-day free trial of Feedback 5 or Restock Pro with coupon code Q1 2023. And we'll be sending out an email after this. And we actually partnered with Mina to create a PPC analytics spreadsheet, which I think is, that might be the one that you were talking about earlier, actually.
Yes,
so
that's the one.
I'll make sure to include that. Yeah. So I wanted to show that Char and Cyndi are both authors. So if you want to learn more about wholesale sourcing, Char is your go-to. She's got a book called Wholesale Sourcing, a step-by-step guide for e-commerce businesses. And then Cyndi talks a lot about Profit First. She has an excellent program. She does, she actually contributes regularly to the eComEngine blog and has been for several years. She's fantastic. So she has Profit First for e-commerce sellers, and then bookskeep also has accounting services. And then Mina's offering a free 45-minute advertising audit, and this guy is full of actionable items. So you get full recommendations and resources for actually implementing the advice that they give you instead of just being handed a lot of advice and kind of left to your own devices. So feel free to check any of those out. I'll send those out in an email after this along with the recording. And thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. I learned a lot.
Yeah, that was great. Really, really great, Becky. Thank you. It was great to meet you, Char, as well.
Nice to meet you, Cyndi.